In July 1955, a young woman was hanged in a London prison for shooting her lover. Her name was Ruth Ellis, and she was the last woman ever to be executed in Britain. For 70 years, her case troubled the nation's conscience, a story of love, obsession, violence, and a justice system that gave her no way out. And then just days ago, in July 2026, the King granted Ruth Ellis a royal pardon, more than 70 years after she went to the gallows. This is her story, and the question that has hung over it ever since. Should she ever have hanged at all? Ruth Ellis was born in 1926, and by her 20s she had made her way to London and into its nightlife, working as a hostess and then the manager of a fashionable drinking club in the West End. She was striking, platinum blonde, sharp and glamorous, a young woman who had already known a hard life and a good deal of disappointment. It was in that world of late nights and easy money that she met a young racing driver named David Blakely. Their affair was passionate and, from the very start, destructive. Blakely was charming and reckless, and he was also violent. He drank, he strayed, and he beat her. The relationship became a cycle of jealousy and reconciliation that neither of them could break. Friends watched her grow more desperate and more damaged. Only days before the end, Blakely struck her so hard that she lost the child she was carrying. To the people around her, Ruth Ellis was a woman being slowly destroyed by the man she loved. There was another man in her life too. Desmond Cusson, a quiet, devoted admirer, hovered at the edges, offering money and comfort and, it would later be claimed, something far more dangerous. For it was Cusson, some have always said, who gave Ruth Ellis the gun and taught her how to use it. That part of the story was never properly examined at her trial, and it has shadowed the case ever since. On Easter Sunday, the 10th of April 1955, Ruth Ellis went looking for David Blakely. She found him outside a pub in Hampstead called the Magdala. As he came out onto the street, she took a revolver from her handbag and fired. Blakely died there on the pavement, and a passerby was wounded by a stray shot. Ellis did not run. She stood quite still and calmly asked someone to call the police and waited to be arrested. She seemed almost relieved that it was finally over. Her trial at the Old Bailey lasted barely a day and a half. The facts were not really in dispute, and Ruth Ellis did not try to hide what she had done. Asked what she had intended when she fired, she answered plainly that she had meant to kill him. In the England of 1955, that admission was as good as the end of it. The law offered her almost nothing. The defense of provocation was drawn so narrowly that her years of abuse counted for little, and the idea that a battered, grieving woman might not be fully in command of herself had no place in a courtroom yet. The jury took about 20 minutes to find her guilty of murder, and murder carried one sentence only: death. The country was uneasy. As the date drew near, thousands signed petitions begging for her life to be spared. Newspapers that had once painted her as a cold killer began to ask whether hanging a damaged young woman was justice or something closer to cruelty. But the appeals failed, and the Home Secretary would not intervene. On the morning of the 13th of July 1955, at Holloway Prison, Ruth Ellis was hanged. She was 28 years old, and she was the last woman ever executed in the United Kingdom. Her death did not settle the matter. If anything, it opened it. The public revulsion at the hanging of Ruth Ellis became one of the forces that pushed Britain within 10 years to abolish the death penalty altogether. And there was a bitter irony in the timing. Just 2 years after she died, the law was changed to recognize diminished responsibility, exactly the kind of defense that might have saved her. Had she killed David Blakely in 1957 instead of 1955, she would almost certainly have been convicted not of murder but of manslaughter, and she would have lived. For decades, her family fought to have that injustice acknowledged, and in July 2026, they finally succeeded. On the advice of the government, the King granted Ruth Ellis a posthumous conditional pardon. The pardon does not pretend she never fired the gun. What it recognises is that she had suffered sustained abuse that was never properly weighed, that under the law and the understanding of today, her conviction would very likely have been manslaughter rather than murder, and that the punishment she received, death, was a profound injustice that modern law would never have allowed. 71 years too late, the state that hanged Ruth Ellis has admitted that it got it wrong. She remains the last woman executed in Britain, a glamorous, troubled young woman who shot the man who was destroying her, and paid with her life in a system that had no room for her story. Whether you call it a crime of passion, a tragedy, or a killing born of abuse, the question that hung over her case for 70 years has at last been answered.